Hello YouTube and welcome to an all new Elder Scrolls lore video. Today we're talking about the Welkynar Knights, who are the protectors of the Summerset Isles. I recently came across this order of knights while playing and I think that they're an interesting group to say the least, definitely deserving of their own video. That said, if you want to know more about some of Tamriel's knightly orders, be sure to check out my video on the Pale Order, which released 2 weeks ago, the link to which is in the description. Anyway, let's talk about the Welkynars. The Welkynar Knights, or also in short just the Welkynars, are some of Summerset Isles' most powerful knights and protectors. This knightly order has the sole purpose of protecting the Summerset Isles against any threat. The order is based in the city of Cloudrest upon the Etonir mountain, which is one of the, if not the highest mountain on the Summerset Isles. They chose this location because it's central to the Summerset Isles, and from there they would be able to easily reach the entire island for any urgent call for aid. But of course, on foot they wouldn't really get very far, as if there's an urgent call for help somewhere in the north, they would be far too late if they had to walk all the way there, or even on horseback. And because of this, the knights are mostly known for their griffins that they tame and ride. Using these wild flying creatures, they can quickly soar towards any region that needs their aid urgently. The order consists out of 4 permanent members, a representation of the 4 cardinal directions, north, east, south and west. They are extremely strong in combat, usually talented with both weapons and magic, and every member is usually skilled with many types of weapons, because it's not strange for members of the order to have a big arsenal of weapons, and their gear is usually custom made for them and made with the very best materials. If a craftsman wants to make equipment for one of the knights, they need to make sure that the equipment is basically adherent to the very specific standards that are needed in order for their weapons to be accepted into the armory of one of the Welkynars. One very important standard is that their weapons and armor need to be made out of light but very strong materials, as their griffins need to be able to carry them, and thus they cannot be too heavy with really heavy armor. But they do need heavy armor, like heavy strong protection armor, so that's why the light materials are needed, and that's why only the very best materials can suffice for them. The weapons and armor carried by the Welkynars all have elements of decoration inspired by their distinctive griffins, as the griffins that they ride play a massive role in their identity as knights. Essentially, from the start of your training as a knight, your personal griffin will play a large role until you retire from the order or die, or until your griffin dies. Each member can take on initiates which they will train personally, but an initiate already has to be highly capable in battle to even have a chance to become an initiate to one of the Welkynar Knights. If one gets selected as an initiate, the person in question has to somehow obtain a griffin egg without killing the mother griffin. They will then need to make sure that the egg is able to hatch by caring for the egg, and once the egg has hatched, they need to train the griffin from birth and keep them as a companion for life. Each member raises their own griffin and follows secret magical rituals with which they enhance the bond between yourself and your griffin until you basically become extensions of one another. In many cases, the griffin and the Welkynar Knights share each other's thoughts, feelings and needs. You will need to be fully connected with your partner, and the two of you become inseparable until one of the two dies, unfortunately. This is also why it's important not to kill the mother griffin, as it's really hard to form a good bond that you need as a Welkynar Knight with a partner that can basically sense that you killed its mother. Despite the magical rituals to enhance the bond, an initiate still needs to raise the griffin all by themselves. Which really isn't an easy task, as griffins are wild animals and not especially fit for training under normal circumstances. It's not strange to find a Welkynar Knight or an initiate missing a finger or two, as the baby griffins tend to try and peck them off if they aren't careful. The raising of the griffin is said to be more intensive than raising a child, with many painful packed sleepless nights and cleaning duties awaiting the initiates. When your griffin is raised and your training is complete, you will become a full initiate, becoming a knight when your master either retires or passes away. Until that time comes, accompanying your master on missions and presumably occasionally going on your own missions is basically their schedule. Which mission you get is decided by the 4 head knights. Anyone on the Summerset Isles, from the lowliest soldier, as long as you're in the military, to the High Queen in her palace as head of the government, can all call for aid of the Welkynars, but which calls for aid that they answer is fully to the discretion of the 4 knights. When they're not on a mission, the Welkynars usually fly around Summerset to scout for possible dangers and keep a watch of the local chatter in order to hear if there's any trouble that they might need to play into. We can encounter the Welkynar Knights in the Elder Scrolls Online in the city of Cloudrest, which is a trial and thus is one of the hardest parts of the game to complete. In this trial, you and a group of others can assist the Welkynar Olorime to defeat a very powerful sea sloth and free the other 3 Welkynars who have been turned into shadowy slaves for the sea sloth by shadow magic. If you want to know more about shadow magic, by the way, I made a video about it a few years ago. You should watch it if the lore on shadow magic sounds remotely interesting to you. That video is in the description, by the way. That said, that's basically all that we can say about the Welkynars. Definitely an interesting group, and I don't really know if they're still around during the 3rd or 4th era, considering they only protect the Altmer. I can imagine that they might have gone defunct after Tiber Septim's conquest of the Summerset Isles. Or maybe they still exist in the 4th era, or maybe they have been refounded in the 4th era. Who knows? Anyway, something interesting to notice, by the way, that the whole bond between the Griffin and the Welkynar Knight, with their bonds basically being magically ingrained into both partners. It really made me think of this book series that I read once, the Inheritance Cycle. But like the Aragon book is the first one. Maybe you heard of it, where there's like Dragon Knights and, Dragon Riders and dragons who share kind of the same bond. Anyway, that's really interesting to me. I wonder if they got inspired by that, or if it's just a coincidence that that seems really similar. Anyway, that was today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, consider returning next week for the next Elder Scrolls lore video. But for now, I'm ending things after thanking my top Patreon supporters, Mr. Bernardo Binda, Gabriel Binda, Sort of Bushido, Sar Mikhail, and Mr. Christmas. These wonderful people, along with all the others on screen, are who keep my channel afloat, and for that I am very grateful. So, with that behind us, I will see you all next week in the next Elder Scrolls lore video. Bye bye.